Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I'd like to congratulate that last speaker for showing that the Labor Party is wavering on their tax policy. It only took them 24 hours to realise it was a dog and they're not going to go for it. But we all wait for next week. But I'd like to congratulate the Green Party as well, because the Green Party is now the leader of the left wing in New Zealand. Their policy is what will determine what the left will campaign on. It's not the Labor Party, it's the Green Party policy that's been promoted by the Labor Party now. The Green Party always wanted to have a capital gains tax, and now the Labor Party's doing it. So good on the Greens for at least standing for it, and poor old Labor for having to pick up Green Party policy. This is a tax of envy. It's a tax that won't work. It won't work for a number of reasons. First of all, house prices aren't going up, and so there will be no return to the government from this tax in its first few years. This tax won't work because if you fully implemented the tax, you would have to do it across all assets and not just investment properties. If you only did it on investment properties, in 15 years' time, you may get $700 million. That would not be what you need to sustain this economy in the near future. $700 million in 15 years' time. Tell the people of Christchurch, we'll rebuild your city with $700 million in 15 years' time and see how far you'd get. This tax won't work because it will be complex, and those people out there that can afford to will try and get around it. This tax will not work in that it will not mean that there will be no increase in housing prices. Look at the biggest property bubble going on in the moment, and it's in Sydney. And that's a place where they have said they've had capital gains taxes. And what's happened in Australia, house prices have still gone up. And it won't change under this policy. So you look at it. What would the Labor Party actually do with their capital gains tax? Would they stick to the non-family home? Well, yeah, they may do that. Would they go to beach houses, those kind of investments? Yeah, they probably would do that. Would they go to farms? Well, of course they'll do that because they don't like farmers. Would they go to other businesses? Well, they have to if they're going to go to the beach house, the second home and the farm. So they have to go to businesses. So you tell those employers out there, those electricians and plumbers, that they can't take on apprentices now because they're going to be taxed on selling their business. There will be no incentive to build their businesses. Then they'll have to tax other assets like shares and other forms of investments. When are they going to stop in that process? How will you deal with the corporate structures to avoid taxation in those areas? And how will they make that fair and equitable? That will depress investment in this country and the productive economy. So Labor's envy tax will have the opposite effect to what they want it to do. That tax will actually depress economic growth in New Zealand and will hurt this economy because you will be taxing the productive sector. And to tax the productive sector is the last thing the New Zealand economy needs. Now, the second part of their tax platform is to increase marginal tax rates on those earning high incomes in New Zealand. Those are skilled people. They are the people we need to retain in New Zealand and attract back to New Zealand. How are you going to keep doctors in New Zealand if you tax the guts out of them? They're going to go to Australia where they can earn more money. So what are you going to do with the Labor Party tax policy? First of all, it's going to hurt businesses, it's going to hurt investment, and it's going to hurt economic growth. Second of all, what's it going to do? You're going to tax those people that we need to be working hard, that we need to be building this country stronger. And that tax policy will have a detrimental effect on this economy. It will put us in those decade of recessionary years that the Labor Party planned. It will put us into that situation where we have a decade or 2 decades of deficits going forward. That tax policy has no economic justification, and that's why the Green Party set it up, because the Green Party don't understand economics, and now this shows that the Labor Party doesn't understand economics either. And let's look at the numbers. The numbers are going to be the big thing, because I hope you've done your numbers right, Stuart, because next week, when you announce this policy, everybody's going to be looking at those numbers. And the way they stack up now, the Labor Party's got problems. because this tax policy won't be effective.
Stuart